Yeah, I think the media is the opposition party in many ways, and I think that, and I'm not talking about all media. I know people like yourself, but I know people in the media that I have tremendous respect for, respect them as much as anybody. So I'm not talking about everybody, but a big portion of the media, the dishonesty, the total deceit and deception makes them certainly partially the opposition party.
Well, President Trump already up this morning,
That's right,
tweeting about the media.
That's right, top of the muffin to all of you. And yeah, Donald Trump, he likes to wake up on the weekends, it seems, and he's taken on the media.
He likes to wake up, yeah. He likes to wake up on the weekends. You mean wake up and tweet? He likes to wake up.
He likes to go right after the media.
The failing New York Times, as we know, he tweeted this morning, just moments ago. The failing New York Times has been wrong about me from the very beginning, said I would lose the primaries, then the general election. Fake news. The coverage about me in the New York Times and the Washington Post has been so false and angry that the Times actually apologized to its dwindling subscribers and readers. They got me wrong right from the beginning and still have not changed course and never will. Dishonest. Just to be clear, that was probably multiple tweets, not
140
characters. And I don't think the New York Times actually apologized. They sort of acknowledged that they needed to come down out of their skyscraper a little bit more. And
well, it was embarrassing. They put this letter out after the election to their readers saying, we blew it. So, you know, apology or not. They did.
Yeah.
And, you know, Sheriff David Clark has been all over the media and mainstream media and all over this issue as Donald Trump takes office. Good to have you here, Sheriff, and I wonder what you think about week one.
Well, first of all, I thought it was a good start because what President Trump has to do first is set the table, and that's what he's doing. He's undoing some of the damage with the executive orders, many of those that violated the Constitution, circumvented Congress, so he got rid of those. And what he did was create some executive orders that help him enforce existing law, not make new law. So I was glad to see that. I still don't understand why people have a problem. When I say people, the New York Times, the Washington Post, media elites, political elites, with Donald Trump tweeting at 3 o'clock in the morning. I do some of my best tweeting at that time of day, so I just don't think that that's a big deal.
I'm going to have to start following you on Twitter in the middle of the night. See what comes up.
Yeah, well, that's when I do some of my best tweeting, because I'm busy at other periods during the day, obviously, with my other responsibilities. But, you know, who cares what time it is? Donald Trump is an early riser. Nothing wrong with that. The wheels are already turning. And he's giving the people that follow him on Twitter, an indication of what's coming ahead. I think it's good to keep the people informed. The people don't want to be surprised. So at least with Donald Trump tweeting, there's no surprises.
Well, and hitting on the media there in the last tweet that we just read, he just tweeted that just a few moments ago. What do you make about that and the war of words that's going on between President Trump and the media? Continues on.
Well, first of all, the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, they have become the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party and of leftist ideology. They have abandoned their responsibility under the Constitution, their First Amendment protection, and we want them to have First Amendment protection, but we don't want it to be used against people whose political views they don't agree with or that they oppose. They're supposed to be a watchdog, but instead what they have become, like I said, is an echo chamber for leftist ideology. So I think it's good because the media has changed, and organizations like the New York Times, Washington Post, and others do not realize that this is a new media age, and every person in the United States now is their own reporter, and that is competition to them as well, and they don't like it.
Well, Facebook is one of the biggest media companies now in the world, and Mark Zuckerberg, arguably the most powerful man in all of media right now, and he has been opposed to Donald Trump putting up this border wall. He's been outspoken about that, and he wrote this: like many of you, I'm concerned about the impact of the recent executive orders signed by President Trump. We need to keep this country safe, but we should do that focusing on people who actually pose a threat. We should also keep our doors open to refugees and those who need help. That's who we are. And, of course, we just learned that Mark Zuckerberg was also
building his own wall.
Building his own wall around his Hawaiian
personal
home.
property.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, a little hypocritical.
First of all, I'm tired of one-percenters like Mark Zuckerberg and others lecturing us about who we are. I know who I am, and most Americans know who we are. We are a sovereign nation. If you're going to have going to be a sovereign nation, you have to have borders, and you have to protect those borders. Mark Zuckerberg has no idea who's coming into this country and what it takes to vet those individuals. I, as a law enforcement officer, I'm in my 39th year. We do a lot of vetting of people. I know how it's done, but you have to have databases with which to compare. So you take a name, someone coming in as a refugee. We're not talking about the kids. I'm tired of all this, throwing the crocodile tears about the kids, the poor kids coming. We're not talking about that. We're talking about able-bodied grown men fighting age that should be back in Syria and back in the Middle East fighting for their country, coming over to the United States to spread jihad. So that's who we're talking about. But if you don't have a database, someone gives you a name, and you don't have a database in Syria because they don't have the record systems and the databases like we have with people, you have nothing to compare it to. So they give you a name and you look and there's nothing there. That doesn't mean that they're safe to come in. So Donald Trump is right on this, and I hope that the rest of the people in Washington, D.C. realize that this thing is a mess, and we have to get our arms around it, and at least President Donald Trump recognizes that.
It's interesting that there's so many people surprised by this first week. Yesterday when he poured that executive action on extreme vetting, for example, that was one of his biggest campaign promises. He spoke about that for the past year and a half. I mean, all he's doing is really following through on what he promised he would on the campaign and what many people voted for him to do.
Well, what's interesting is former Barack Obama said that they were already doing it. So if he said, and they weren't, but if he said they were already doing it, and now President Donald Trump comes along and says we're doing it, and now these same people who said, well, hey, Barack Obama's taking care of these same people are now being critical of it. The hypocrisy of this is profound. But Donald Trump understands, President Donald Trump understands that his first obligation is to defend and protect American citizens and defend and protect America from foreign threats. That is his first and most important obligation. So he is rising up to that, and people should be proud of that. It makes me feel more secure that finally somebody understands that the defense of this nation is government's #1 priority.
Well said, Sheriff David Clark. Always great to see you here. Thanks so much.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, coming up here on the show, President Trump hosting his first world leader at the White House, pledging lasting support to Britain's Prime Minister Theresa